It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning as we talk about real estate here in the Charleston area. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks so much for joining me. You know, we now have this show on iTunes as a podcast, and I've got people that are listening to it from all over South Carolina and the nation, and we've even had some people internationally listen to the program, which is really awesome. So if you want to catch this show, if you can't listen to all of it, first of all, we play the show Saturdays at 9 and Sundays at 10 here on 1250 AM NWTMA.com. But you can also go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and see all the shows that I've listed over the past 5 years that I've been doing this program. And you can also download them and listen to my podcast on iTunes. So that's been pretty cool to see how many people have been listening to the show from all over the world. It's pretty neat. So here's what I'm going to talk about over the next hour. I want to give you guys a substantial market update now that we are through the first quarter. Let's see how we compared to this time last year. And if you've ever wondered, how much work do I need to do to my house before I list it for sale, we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover making sense out of downsizing. A lot of our listeners are at the age now where they're becoming empty nesters. Kids are leaving the home. Maybe they're approaching retirement age. They just don't need all the space. They don't need the upkeep. They don't want to do all the landscaping. They don't need all the maintenance. They don't need the size of the house. So they're considering downsizing. So I'm going to give you some important things to think about to make sure that's a successful transition into a smaller home. And then lastly, I'm going to give you guys some tips if you're going to buy a home this year. It's a seller's market. Inventory is tight. It's still tight. It's actually tighter. It continues to get tighter. So if you're a buyer, how do you make sense out of this market? How do you succeed in this market where if a home that is priced well, marketed well, in good condition, if it goes on the market, more often than not, it's going to sell very quickly. And more often than not, you're not the only person interested in that property. So what are some tips that I can provide you with to help you be successful in that transaction? I'm going to give that to you at the tail end of this program. Now, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to hire my team to help you buy or sell real estate here in the Charleston area, we'd love the opportunity to do so. You can reach me personally. My cell phone number is 843-345-1273. Again, that's 345-1273. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And we've sold about 1,000 homes here in the Charleston area over the past 12 years that I've been in business here. Been in the top 1% of agents since 2009. And for those of you that have listened, you already know this, but let me just restate it. If you list your home with me this year, we're not going to pay for a pre-listing inspection. We're going to offer you a 2-hour staging consultation. We're going to give you a home warranty while your home is listed for sale. And then, of course, professional photography and videography and marketing that covers the entire globe, everything from your next door neighbor to people in China and everywhere in between. So if you'd like more information on that, again, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. So let's jump into the market now that we're through the first quarter of 2018. And, real estate activity continues to be high. It's a little slower depending upon how you look at it compared to the first quarter of last year, but we've got a consistently improving economy. And although some markets are seeing kind of an increase in signed contracts, which is what we call pending sales, the vast majority of the nation is experiencing fewer closed sales and just lower inventory in general compared to this time last year. Now, despite all of that, demand remains very high, which is what's pushing prices up. And I'm going to get into some of the stats here in just a minute. But the other thing to really take into account is the fact that the Federal Reserve raised their short-term interest rate by 1/4 point back in March. And they're citing concerns about inflation. And it's the 6th time since December of 2015 that they have raised the rates. And they're expecting those rates to increase at least 2 more times this year. So borrowing money is just going to become, more expensive, particularly for home equity loans and credit cards and adjustable rate mortgages. But we're combating that, of course, with some rise in wages and a very low national unemployment rate, which I think is around 4%. So although mortgage rates, they have gone up over the past, few months, certainly, but really over the past year or so, if you look at, say, a 30-year trend of interest rates, we are still historically very low. The cost of money is relatively cheap still, and I expect it to remain that way for the foreseeable future. Where, once we start getting into 6-7%, then it's a different story. And yes, it impacts affordability when you couple it with rising prices. But overall, interest rates are still affordable. Mortgages are still very much so readily available. There's this kind of preconceived notion that lenders don't want to lend money unless you're an A-plus borrower, and that getting a mortgage is incredibly difficult. It's not. There's more regulation now. There's more oversight now. A few more hoops to jump through. But banks want to be lending money. Make no mistake. And they're going to work with you. And I'm going to give you some tips specifically about lenders at the tail end of this program when I give you some tips on buying a home in a seller's market. So let's just look at some of the kind of the bigger broad picture stats for our particular area, Charleston, the Tri-County area. If you look at, inventory, which is where we spend a lot of time, especially in this program, focusing on one of the key factors that determines whether we're in a buyer's market, a normal market, or a seller's market. And if you look at the amount of homes that were available for sale last month, the end of March, we had a little over 5,100 homes available. Now, if you were to look at March of last year, we had a little over 5,800. So we've seen about a 12% decrease in just the number of homes available for sale. But when you look at closings and pending contracts, and you compare that to the amount of homes that are available for sale, that's what gives us months' supply of inventory, which is one of the measures we use to determine whether we are in a buyer's market, a normal market, or a seller's market. The lower the month's supply of inventory, the more a seller's market it becomes. And last month, we were at 3.3 months worth of inventory. In March of 2017, we were at basically 4 months worth of inventory. So not a huge change in terms of a month less worth of inventory, but you also have to, understand that even though we had 700 less properties to choose from, we put 250 properties more under contract year to date than we did in 2017. So that's what's absorbing the inventory. Inventory is going down despite, all of this good news for sellers. I don't quite understand it. I mean, I do, but if you're a seller and you're positioned to sell and you're ready to go, I'm not quite sure what you're waiting for. This has been the first time that I can recall in really the 12 years that I have been doing this in this business, where I'm talking to sellers and they are the only person in their neighborhood that would be going on the market. Or there are very few available in their neighborhood or their general area or price range. Competition is low. Demand is high. We've got all these buyers that are just kind of waiting. They're watching websites like Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, and they're working with real estate agents already, and they're waiting for new inventory to hit the market for a few reasons. They're waiting for inventory to hit the market so that they can now express an interest in the home and feel confident enough to put their home on the market. Or, of course, their home is already on the market, or it's under contract, or it's already sold, and they need to find something. When I'm talking with sellers, I call that group number one, the people that are ready, willing, and able to purchase a property right now. They just haven't found what they're looking for yet, and it's impeding their ability to move forward. Now, group number two would be the people that enter the market every day. Something changes in their life, and now they are ready to start looking for a new home. That would be something like they've got a new job and they're moving to the area. They just found out they're having their fourth child and they need a bigger space. They're getting divorced. Whatever the case is, they are now a buyer. So when you list your home, this is kind of getting a little bit off track, but a little piece of advice. When you list your house for sale, you are marketing to both groups of people, the ready, willing, and able group, and then the ever-changing group, which is group number two, the people that are constantly entering the market. So your best chance at selling is within the first 6 weeks because you're marketing to both groups of people. At some point in time, stats say usually around 6 weeks or so, if you haven't received an offer or there's no, telltale sign that you are in what we call the strike zone and you will be getting an offer, then you've essentially exhausted group number one. They've seen your home online, or they saw it wherever it is they saw it, whatever marketing platform that they use to search for real estate, and they have made the decision to come and see your home or not and make an offer or not. Now, what you have to understand is that even though there's low inventory, if you overprice your house, buyers are very aware at this stage in our market with regard to value. They understand value pretty well. I think better than, say 10 years ago when the market was diving downward and people were trying to make sense out of it. And obviously that was a buyer's market, so the landscape was different. But for sellers, we're going to talk about this in a little while. If you're selling your house, your best chance is to sell it in the first 6 weeks. Now, if you look at days on market as an example, we haven't had a huge change. It's down about 7% from last year. The average days on market, market-wide, is 61 days, which is one of the factors we look at to determine, is our market shifting? Now, if that number were to increase and listings were to increase and start to outpace sales, and we're now putting more inventory on the market than we're absorbing, then that would be a telltale sign that, yes, we are now entering a shift and returning toward normalcy. But we're not quite there yet. Now, everybody wants to know about price, and here's the encouraging news. Prices, the median sales price is up a little over 6% year-to-date compared to 2017. The median sales price in all of Charleston is $259,000. This time last year, it was $260,000 last month. In March of 2017, it was $246,000. So prices continue to go up. Lack of inventory. If you're a seller, you're thinking about selling, I'm telling you, the timing is right in terms of market stats, generalized market stats, but it's always important to look at your specific area, your neighborhood, your price range, the features of your home in comparison to others. And let's look at the actual trends that impact you. The market trends overall do have an impact, but we have to be very specific with regard to the expectations we set based on your specific sub-market, because real estate is local. It's hyper-local. And we want to make sure that we're looking at things the right way, through the right lens, not through this kind of blurred lens of an overall view of the market. The overall view of the market is good. It's seller-based. However, there are areas of Charleston, there are price ranges in Charleston, generalized price ranges, where it is not a seller's market anymore. It's a normal market. So be aware of that and make sure that when you're discussing the idea of selling your home, that you're getting stats relative to your specific area and price range. So overall, market's still doing very well. Prices are going up. Inventory is going down. Buyers are having a little bit of a harder time making sense out of purchasing properties in this market. They're getting beaten out by other buyers, whether it's a better offer or it's cash versus financing, or it's just that they were the first ones there. And we're going to talk about that at the tail end of this program. So I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, we're going to talk about, how much work do you really need to do to your house before you put it up for sale? So all that and more as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. And remember, if you want to reach out to me with help buying, selling, or investing in real estate, my personal number is 843-345-1273. That's 345-1273. Or go to listingsincharleston.com.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. We're going to talk now about, how much work do you really need to do before you put your home on the market? There are a bunch of different opinions on this. Some people say, don't do anything. It's a waste of money. Some people say, do everything. Stage your home. Make it perfect. You want to have every option available to you and when you go to sell your home. And so I've got a little bit of a blended view on this, just because I've done this 1,000 times. My team has helped people in Charleston buy and sell about 1,000 properties over the course of 12 years. And so I understand what the market wants. And that is really, I think, how you have to approach this topic. You have to understand the landscape in which you're selling your property and what buyers are going to expect out of your home. Now, obviously, it's a seller's market. We just went through the market stats. If you're just joining us, we were just talking about how, it's still a seller's market. Prices are going up. Inventory is going down. We are purchasing more properties than we were last year in terms of the pace by which we're putting homes under contract. So, I don't see us shifting anytime soon. I know there's some concern about our market shifting. I had a very random phone call a few days ago from a lady that just decided to give me a piece of her mind after listening to my radio show last week, and just had a completely skewed opinion of the market, and I gave her about 5 minutes and then said, okay, well, I appreciate the call. Have a nice day. And she wanted to give me a piece of her mind that it sounded like she had lost a few years ago. But the market is not shifting, quote unquote, anytime soon. And by shift, I think people are meaning that the market is going to crash. And I don't see signs of that right now. I think we still have several years worth of good real estate ahead of us, not just here in Charleston, but nationwide. Now, of course, there are some signs that are different from last year. And, not many years are the same in real estate. It's very challenging to have a flat line in real estate for a prolonged period of time. So, of course, we're going to see some little changes here and there. In my opinion, nothing really to be worried about. So sellers, you still have an opportunity for quite a while to come to benefit from a seller's market. Having said that, and I said this caveat last segment, there are some areas of Charleston that have now seen an increase in supply. Demand has waned a little bit, and they are now in a normal market. The sellers don't hold all the cards. Okay? So you need to be very specific when you're talking to somebody about the market, because everybody tends to believe that the market is a seller's market. And the hype is that, you put your home on the market and boom, it's sold in a week and you've got a bunch of buyers fighting over it. That's not the norm. Now, you can create that situation, but that's not the norm. That doesn't happen every time. We're still seeing a lot of it. It has a lot to do with pricing, positioning, marketing, condition, motivation. If you're not motivated to sell and, hey, somebody comes along and wants to pay you top dollar for your house, sure, you'll sell it. Your motivation and likely your pricing and the strategy associated with selling your home is going to be different from somebody that is getting divorced and needs to sell like yesterday. So different varying degrees of motivation can have an impact on how quickly those homes sell and at what price those homes sell. But if you're thinking about selling your house, let's talk for a little bit about, what you need to do before it lists. And a lot of sellers have extreme anxiety over the thought of having to clear out and fix up a bunch of stuff in their home. And so much so that it can actually prevent them from putting their house on the market in the first place. But in most cases, there's really no need to panic. Or really to overshoot your goals and kind of outdo what is necessary in order to prepare your home for sale. There's actually oftentimes a lot less that homeowners have to do than they think there is. So before you go spending a bunch of time and money fixing up your place or just throwing up your hands and giving up before you even begin, my first piece of advice is just show your house to a real estate agent. You don't have to be ready to sell today. There are, every agent in this market should welcome the opportunity to walk through your home and advise you and help plan for when you are ready. Preparation is one of the keys to success in this market. And we're going to talk about that as it relates to buyers a little later on in this program. But show it to a real estate agent, obviously preferably my team. Hey, I'll take some business, of course. Call me, 843-345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. But, all joking aside, we can tell you what to do and what not to do, where you're going to make money on the sale, what's going to help your home sell faster, and what's just an absolute waste of time and money. So there are a few parts to this equation, getting your home ready for sale. There's staging, decluttering, repairs, deferred maintenance, and renovations. And as some of you may know, my team offers a free listing inspection when you hire us to help you sell your house. And of course, there are a few benefits to that, right? So you get to know what needs to be done to the house so that we can price your home accordingly. We can also choose contractors and bid the work on our schedule that fits your budget, rather than being subject to some buyer's contractor that's probably going to overcharge what he would typically charge his client because he's not bidding the work as if the buyer is the contractor's client. You are the person that he's trying to get the money out of. So, of course, he's going to inflate his prices a little bit. Now, that might be a statement that raises some eyebrows. But look, I see it happen. You can't tell me that people don't do it if I'm seeing it with my own two eyes consistently. And that's one of the goals of this program, is to kind of peel back this curtain and tell you what's actually going on in the real estate industry. And that is just a fact. It's truth. There are plenty of contractors out there that might be listening to this program and say, hey, I never do that. And good for you, man. I appreciate that. Keep your industry honest. But there are plenty of contractors that do. And so that's why I think it's important to get ahead of something like that and pay what is fair to pay to make repairs to your home within reason. We don't need to repair everything, but at a very minimum is going to give us an idea of what we could actually sell your home for. We can sell your home at that price without having to negotiate further down the road, because we already know what those hurdles are. We're handling objections before they become objections, or we are removing, in many instances, the ability to negotiate further and allowing buyers to beat you up after they get the home inspection because there are a bunch of repairs that they see that they weren't privy to, right? So it just puts you in a position of power. So I highly recommend it, whether you use my team or not, but if you use mine, I pay for the pre-listing inspection. So there are a lot of benefits to that. Okay, and if you don't have money to make the repairs, that's okay too. Let's just take that into account and budget for it when we're selling your property. Let's be upfront and honest with people about, hey, we had a pre-listing inspection done, and these are the issues that we found. We don't have the ability to fix them, so we're going to offer you a credit of X to address these issues. Here's a quote that substantiates that. So pre-listing inspections are huge. And as some of you may know that listen to this program, we also offer a free 2-hour staging consultation with a stager decorator to help you present your home in its best light. And this is not staging, by the way, where we bring in furniture and charge a few $1,000 for renting their furniture. This is where a true professional walks through your house, tells you what to change, which could be, painting, a very bright colored room. It could be, what to remove. Maybe it's some clutter, extra furniture, some stained carpet, what to add. Fresh flowers and plants and bright towels and throw pillows go a long way, believe me. And then how to highlight the natural and kind of obvious features of your home that make it unique. If you have a really nice open floor plan, yet your furniture is configured in such a way that closes everything off, then you're kind of taking away from the natural highlights of that particular house. So that's part of, we have to look at your home as a product. And everybody gets so used to living in their house that they have things done their own way. I'll give you a quick example. I had a client that loved the Game of Thrones. Me too. Awesome show. Love it. Haven't missed an episode. And he configured his family room to where he had his lazy boy recliner like 8 feet from the television, and he had like a table right in front of him he could put his feet on, and or to the side that he could put his drinks on. It just, it was like an entertainment room just for him to watch Game of Thrones, and it just wasn't within the form and function of what a family room should be. It was like he turned it into his own private movie theater. And so when we asked him to change it, obviously he wasn't very happy about it because it impacted his experience when he's watching Game of Thrones. But I helped him bring it back to reality when I said that the way that your furniture is configured is detracting from the experience buyers have when they walk through your house. So a quick little side note here. If your house is vacant, it is possible that staging makes sense for you. It's just going to depend on your budget and your floor plan and the market dynamics, right? I have access to a fantastic stager that can help you kind of set the stage for a buyer to walk through your home and more easily envision what living there might look like. But we also do virtual staging, which is really cool. And just for the purposes of having your home appear staged in the photos, we use a company that will virtually stage your house. The furniture looks real. The photos look like the furniture is in there. And they just crop furniture in, and they crop in furniture. Maybe they change the, they add drapes, they add a rug, they add lamps. I mean, it's awesome what they can do, and it's not very expensive. And that's something that my team offers. If you have a vacant home and you want to sell it, we will virtually stage it for free. So some huge advantages there. Now, if you go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and you go to the blog section. And I think if you scroll down just a few, because we've added a few new blogs, but if you scroll down just a few, there is a document in there that's free to download, and it's called 90 Things to Do to Sell Your Home for Top Dollar. And you can download it right there on the website, and it's a list of everything that you should be looking at as you drive up to the house. So it covers curb appeal. It covers, everything as far as, hey, blow off your driveway. If your driveway is nasty, maybe it's time to pressure wash your driveway. And then, of course, it talks about every single room in the home, what to do, what not to do. It talks about the experience of showing your property and what you can do to increase that. So free download, listingsincharleston.com. Go to the blog section, and it should be just a few down. Or you just click on the contact tab and type in free seller's guide or something like that. And I'll know what you're talking about if it comes in over the next few days. And I'll send that right to you. And on that note, on the front page of my website, I have a guide to selling your home in 2018 that we've put together. It's a little over 20 pages, lots of great information in there, and that's a free download as well. So listingsincharleston.com. And of course, if you want to reach out to me to talk about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, my number is 843-345-1273. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about making sense out of downsizing, some things that you can do to help your transition into a smaller space. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 and each Sunday morning at 10 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I want to talk now about making sense out of downsizing. A large portion of the sellers we work with are downsizing. The kids are grown up, house is either paid off or it's on its way to being paid off, and they're ready to scale back and reduce their real estate footprint. And these sellers are now in a position where they want to simplify. They want to reduce the time and stress and labor and the financial resources associated with maintaining their house. And most of them also want to convert some of their equity into cash to fund their retirement account. And a lot of them are just ready for a change of pace, right? Move closer to family, go to a resort town, kind of get out of the traditional neighborhood setting and live somewhere a little more lively, go to a retirement community, so on and so forth. But the balancing act of all of this can be a little tricky. I mean, you need to obviously pull off a profitable sale in order to fund your retirement savings. And I speak with so many people that say that their equity, for the most part, is their retirement account, and that they need to, land in a place that they're going to enjoy for the next decade or two or three. And the fun part is, for those that are downsizing, there are a lot fewer geographic constraints, I would say. You're not worried about school districts or how close your kids are located to their friends or extracurricular activities. It doesn't really matter if you have to commute to work anymore. You're not worried about the location in relation to, your office. So your world starts to open up a little bit. And for a lot of sellers, it's very exciting. But again, the balancing act can be emotionally challenging, especially if you're moving out of a family home that's just full of so many family memories. That probably more so than anything else is what really gets sellers that are about to downsize, is the memories that they've created in that family home. So here are a few things that I've come up with to kind of help you transition into a smaller space. And the first one I would say is that, and we just talked about this, but staging your home before you sell it. If the last big move that you did was when your kids were a lot younger, and you haven't really renovated your home or freshened up your interior, your home might just look a little dated. And that's okay, but I had a professional stager come on my program a while back to give us an idea of some cost-effective things that you can do to spruce up your interior, which again can be heard on my website, listingsincharleston.com, or by downloading my podcast on iTunes called The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. But some of the suggestions were fairly simple things like adding new bedding or buying new towels in the bathrooms, freshening up your landscaping, removing old rugs, especially when the kitchen and bathrooms, just because it makes it look bigger. Adding plants inside, removing clutter that's built up over the years. I think we're all a little guilty of these kinds of things, but it can be a big bonus to selling your home. And the bonus to decluttering, obviously, is that it just makes the transition into a smaller space much, much easier. The second thing I would say is, don't be afraid to look at condos and townhouses. I mean, if you want some extra cash to fund your retirement account, you could probably get a better deal on a condo or a townhouse right now than you can a single family home. They just haven't risen in value as much over the years as single family homes have. And they also require, of course, less upkeep, which might be tempting after leaving a large home with a lot of maintenance and utilities bills and so on and so forth. Just be wary of the homeowners association fees and some of those surprise costs that they have. I mean, if you're buying a condo, you have got to be familiar with the building's financials, the meeting minutes, and you have to look for any potential red flags, right? Like a history of special assessments or problems that are continuously raised by owners. Look at their reserves. Are they sufficient enough to cover any planned renovations? Or will those upcoming projects require a special assessment? That's cash out of pocket. That is not a good thing, especially if you're going to retire and be on a fixed income. So just some things to be aware of if you're going to look at condos and townhomes, among many other things. You obviously work with a real estate agent on this because there are a lot of potential surprises that you might not expect when you're buying a condo or a townhouse. So work with somebody that's competent in that field. The third thing that I would say is that having a mortgage at today's rates isn't such a bad thing. If you've got money in your pocket, you can afford a higher down payment, which is, going to look really good to a seller if you find yourself in a multiple offer situation because you're perceived as a stronger buyer. And it also, of course, cuts down on your monthly costs. And so you don't necessarily need to go all cash if you're entering your retirement years, because interest rates for a 30-year fixed mortgage are still, a little above 4%, around 4.5%. And plenty of financial advisors, mine included, would say that it is okay to have some housing debt even in retirement. Now, talk to your own financial advisor because I'm not here to advise you on those kinds of things. So having said that, everyone's financial picture is different. So if you have a financial advisor, you need to have a conversation with them because it's all dependent upon your goals and how you have structured your retirement. Fourth thing I want to say is that, you might want to consider your willingness to take on some cosmetic repairs. And what I mean by that is downsizers typically want less space that they don't want to sacrifice on amenities and features. A lot of people want a one-story home. And in Charleston, there are a ton of very charming ranches spread out throughout the Tri-County area, but a lot of them need work. So people that are downsizing kind of automatically dismiss them. And the problem is twofold, in my opinion. Number one, there just aren't a ton of one-story homes on the market in general. And number two, most of them don't offer the same amenities or interior finishes that you're likely used to if you're downsizing. So if you want your cash to go a long way, you could look at finding a bargain among all those homes that are available for sale that need some cosmetic upgrades, because younger buyers and sellers are still kind of juggling full-time jobs and family, and they might just be cash poor. They just don't have the ability to make those kinds of updates. So now you have some additional cash, and if you're retired, you've got some additional time to manage a contractor. So the question is, how good of a deal can you get for purchasing something that needs cosmetic work and then paying to upgrade it versus just the cost of buying something already renovated and recently built? The answer in many cases is that you can buy a house that needs cosmetic upgrades, make those changes yourself, and likely still pay less than purchasing a fully renovated, move-in ready home, because those kinds of properties are in high demand and they sell for a premium. So think about that. If you're not in a huge rush to sell, when we sell your home, we have the ability to create some contingencies that might allow you to lease the property back after closing while you do some work to the home that you purchase. Bunch of different ways we can skin that cat. But if you're considering downsizing, I wouldn't necessarily exclude homes that need some work. Just my opinion. It will at least open up your possibilities. And the fifth thing that I would say, and this might be the most important, is to really kind of test drive a new area before buying. If you're contemplating a big change, you might want to consider renting for a year. And I know that sounds crazy coming from a real estate agent to say that because, hey, all we want to do is sell you something and earn a commission, right? But I think it's wise to take the time to very seriously consider the space that you'll need. Don't make the mistake of buying something that's too small, because you'll just end up selling it and buying something larger that better accommodates your lifestyle. And in that example, even if prices are still rising, it's better, in my opinion, to pay a little rent for a little while just to make sure you're comfortable living in that size home. And it's, you're still going to have to incur the cost of commissions and closing costs if you have to sell it and buy something else. That's something that, this is something, in my opinion, that offers you peace of mind. When you are making a decision that could be your last move. I mean, if that's how you're approaching this decision, I do not see any problem with renting something for a few months. Now, clearly, we want to work with you guys. If we sell your home, we want to help you purchase something else. But that's some advice for you is don't feel rushed. Make sure you're making the right decision. And sometimes the right decision takes a little time. So stick around, because when we come back, I'm going to give you some really helpful tips on buying a house in this kind of crazy seller's market. How do we as a buyer win? What are some things we can do to make this purchase as successful as possible? So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. And remember, if you want to reach out to me to help buy, sell, or invest real estate, I can be reached at 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA, talking now about how to make sense out of buying a house in this market. I'm going to give you some tips if you're a buyer and you're kind of competing in this crazy seller's market. And we talked about how low inventory is in this market right now, down nearly 12% year to date compared to the same amount of time last year. And 10 years ago, we had 12,000 homes available for sale. Now we have slightly over 5,000, which is why the majority of markets in Charleston are classified as a seller's market. And there's very little competition and very high demand, which is causing buyers to fight over properties in multiple offer situations. And or at least at a minimum, there are very quick sales, which means buyers need to act quickly. So here are some tips for buying a house in this market. And it all starts with preparation, getting pre-approved and talking to multiple lenders. I've got a guy on my team right now that is going through the process. And had he not talked to multiple lenders, had he talked to just one, he would have been led to believe he could not get a mortgage. The other person is able to make it work. So you need to diversify. Of course, you need to shop rates and the cost of obtaining a mortgage, but different lenders have access to different programs that could determine whether you think you can buy a home or not. So make sure you're talking to multiple lenders. The second thing is that make sure your needs, your wants, and your desires are effectively communicated to your agent. Make sure you're working with an agent that is proactively searching for properties for you, not just setting you up on an automated email list from the MLS. I mean, you'll lose out on the really good options if they're just doing that for you. And hopefully you interviewed agents and hired somebody that you feel can best help you with the home purchase, rather than just kind of going with the first agent you meet or the first agent that, responds to an online inquiry about a property for sale. Be diligent. Choose to hire somebody based on their qualifications, not just how quickly they responded to your online inquiry. And we see this happen all the time. Buyers end up getting frustrated with the process because they keep losing out on good deals before they're even made aware of them. And it just tells me that the agent isn't working proactively enough and searching for properties on your behalf. And of course, you want to make sure that, your down payment, your earnest money, and the cash that you need to spend on the inspection, the appraisal, the termite inspection, they're all saved up in advance and they're ready to go. But really, the main bulk of my advice here is just going to be to act quickly and decisively. You will only feel comfortable doing this when you understand the market, the possibilities it can provide you in relation to the type of home you're searching for. And perhaps one of the most important parts of this process is trusting your agent's advice. Some agents have what we call in the industry commission breath. You can tell that they're pushing you into a decision because they just want to get a deal done and move on to the next one. There's something very important that I learned several years ago, which has helped me tremendously in my career. And if you're listening and you're in any form of sales, listen up, because this could be a potential game changer for you. People will buy from you or sell to you when they feel understood, not when they understand you. I mean, if you've ever felt pressured by a salesperson, they are trying to get you to understand them. I've been in the business for 20 years and I know this market better than anybody. And this is the perfect house for you. You should buy this now. I mean, that's the kind of salesperson you don't really like. The person that says, do you have any kids? What are your plans for the future? Tell me more about the kind of lifestyle you envision having and how does that relate to where you want to live? Let's see if we can find something that fits you and your family's needs. Which person do you prefer to work with? The person that wants to connect with you and better understand you, what you want, and what needs to happen in order for you to get to the next stage in your life. And I know what you might be thinking right now, if you're a potential buyer or seller, is, oh man, this is a lot of sales talk. I thought this was an educational program, to help me learn more about the real estate market and the process of buying and selling and investing in real estate. This guy's a salesman. Well, first of all, thank you. I will gladly accept that compliment because yes, I'm a salesman, but you know what? Sales are what make this world go round. And as long as there is a need for the exchange of ideas, goods, and services, there will always be a need for sales. So it's not going away anytime soon, folks. But think about what I was saying just a few minutes ago. Don't you want to align yourself with someone that is a consultant to you, somebody that truly understands you and your goals, and that can effectively sell the other party on why you should accept, on why they should accept your offer, or if you're a seller, why they should buy your particular home? I mean, that's one of my favorite sayings. I'm a consultant to you and a salesman to everyone else. And it's true. You want someone that's going to go to bat for you and effectively sell the other party on why they should take your deal or buy your house. I mean, that's how you put deals together, not by pressuring people into a decision, but by truly understanding their motivation to buy or sell and what their decision to buy or sell will do for them and their goals in life. So just make sure you're working with an agent that understands that, and I promise you this will be a much more exciting and successful experience for you without a vast majority of the frustrations that come with buying or selling real estate. So kind of going back to my original tip, act quickly and act decisively. And if you can trust your agent and you know that they have your back and your best interests in mind, they understand your true wants and needs and how much this move will mean to you. And then you can then trust them and their advice. Because the best relationships between an agent and a buyer or seller is built on trust. And you allow your agent to act as your advisor, your consultant, not just somebody that's kind of an order taker. And the last thing that I want to say before we end the show is that know when to fight for what you want and know when to concede. You have to be able to read the playing field through the help of your real estate agent, of course, and determine what is reasonable and what is not reasonable. A great example would be getting a home inspection. And let's say you're buying a house that's 12 years old. And the inspection says that, the air conditioning system and the roof are 12 years old and they are now on the tail end of their useful life, and that you as a buyer now want the seller to replace the HVAC system in the roof. Well, the seller's going to say that the roof is free of leaks and the HVAC system is in proper working condition. So if you push them too hard and ask for something that's unreasonable, then of course you run the risk of killing the deal. And what you may have to learn the hard way is that 9 times out of 10, the sellers they're not going to do anything for you based on that particular scenario I just mentioned. I mean, a good middle ground would be to say something like, all right, sellers, have the HVAC system serviced, provide me with a 1-year maintenance agreement from an HVAC company of your choice as a buyer, and that'll be paid at closing so that you have a year's worth of maintenance on that HVAC system. And the other thing to be aware of is this, last thing. Oftentimes we see a buyer push for what they want and they get it. And they get a bunch of repairs made. Maybe the seller provides some concessions. Everything seems to be going your way as a buyer. And you just feel like you're winning at every turn. And then something unexpected happens and there's maybe a delay in closing, or something happens that now puts you, the buyer, in a position where you need the seller to kind of, do you a favor, extend the contract an extra 10 days, or, hey, we need a little more time. If the seller's been beaten up throughout this process, you can expect them to return that favor when the opportunity for negotiations arise and the seller has the high ground. You can avoid this by kind of revisiting my first piece of advice, which is to be as prepared as possible and to make sure you're working with an agent that can effectively problem solve when things don't go exactly as planned. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you'd like more information on working with my team to help buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give me a call, 843-345-1273. That's 345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. Have a great weekend, and thanks for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.